Welcome back to Up the Villa opposition preview time. We've got Charlie back on the channel. Feels a while since I last spoke to you, mate. We're doing one of these every couple of weeks last season with the FA Cup games as well. So how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah, it did feel like we had a lot of games last year. I think we played each other 4 times. So yeah, we were catching up quite regularly. But mate, I'm good. Chelsea doing reasonably well at the moment. And yeah, looking forward to this, mate. And it's a big game for both teams Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. I think every time I've catched you on this channel, you've been somewhat deflated with what's been going on at Chelsea. But the evolution under Maresca seems like it's going pretty well. So how are you feeling as a fan overall?
Yeah, look, I think happy. Definitely, perhaps didn't expect to be feeling this way, given the changes over the summer. Given that Maresca was kind of a rookie manager, a relative unknown, kind of did what he was meant to do at Leicester. Kind of won the league with basically a Premier League squad. But he kind of knew very little about him, what he was about, and stuff. And there was a big sense of kind of stepping into the unknown once again for Chelsea under this new ownership. Not really sure what you were going to get. We did finish last season pretty strongly, but then you sort of felt like, or was that momentum we kind of built, was that going to be sort of gone, disappear with another new manager coming in, new ideas and whatnot? And to be honest, I was a little bit skeptical about it. Wasn't really too sure what to expect, but I think like a lot of people, pretty much maybe everyone, it's gone much better than anyone expected. I think he's been a real surprise. I think he's been a real breath of fresh air as well for Chelsea. He's come in, he's established a clear identity, he's established a clear patterns of play. Players, are buying into what he's doing. He's honest, and we've had a really good start to the season. We've lost 2 games out of 12, and that was against Man City on the opening day and away at Liverpool. Other than that, we've had a pretty good record, and we are playing some decent stuff. So there's definitely a positive feel around the place, and it feels like it's the most stable Chelsea have been both on and off the pitch, probably in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, and with the new manager, then, I mean, from an onlook of it, it looked like you'd sort of got your act together under Poch towards the end of last season, playing some good football. I remember watching you guys against us at Villa Park, thinking these are good, and I think we went 2-0 up, and you came back,
Yeah.
and it looked like you were going to get the winner, and you played really well there. So, how are the fans feeling with like another new manager, like another new era? Like when you go to Stamford Bridge, is it like you're all sort of loving him, or is it sort of like waiting to see what actually like happens this season?
I think there's a bit of both, mate. I think like having had what we had under Graham Potter and latterly Frank Lampard in that 22-23 season, and then last season to an extent under Pochettino as well. Going to the games now, fans are actually looking forward to the games again because we're doing well. There's a good feel around the place. And there's like Maresca is very popular amongst the fans, but there's also an acceptance that, do you know what? There's only been 12 games in the Premier League. We haven't really gone through a difficult period yet. We haven't really seen how Maresca responds to adversity. We haven't really seen how this group of players maybe responds to adversity, losing maybe 2-3 games on the spin, or not going 5-6 games without a win. We don't really know how the manager deals with that, how the players deal with it. We don't really know how they would respond to sort of Chelsea being portrayed in a negative light, because at the moment everything's gone pretty well this season, and it makes a big change when you're playing good football and you're picking results up, because you don't get anything negative written about you at all. As soon as some bad results start coming, I'm sure we'll start hearing about Egbali and Bowley's fallout they've had another falling out, when that's gone quiet. I haven't heard nothing about that for months. But yeah, as soon as something starts going wrong, I'm sure those stories will resurface. But right now, mate, there's very little negative to say about it, and yeah, Maresca is highly regarded, amongst the fans. Everyone's pretty happy with him. But of course, things can change very quickly. The table's really tight. Yes, we're third right now, but you lose a couple of games, which is very possible in this league. You could find yourself bottom half, so like the narrative can change very quickly.
Yeah, and he seems very driven, which is something that I've picked up on. He seems quite intense with the way he operates. So talk about his tactics then. It looks quite dynamic from whenever I watch you. There seems to be a lot sort of going on with a fullback or Cucurella going forward, and 3 at the back with 2 central midfielders. So how's it been? Sort of like, what are your biggest threats? Where are your weaknesses? What needs to improve, or what doesn't need to improve?
Look, I think we're still obviously at the very early stages of him being here. He's only been here for 4 or 5 months. Um, and look, he said it himself. There's still a lot of things that we can improve on. Yes, we're doing things well. Yes, we're attacking well, but there's still a lot we can still improve in all areas of the pitch. I think you would have to be honest and say that even though we're nowhere near as bad defensively as what perhaps a lot of people make out, the defense is probably the weakest area of the team. We are prone to lapses in concentration at times. We are prone to not defending balls into the box particularly well, or not defending set pieces particularly well. So I think that's an area that needs to improve. Midfield is definitely got a lot better from last season. There's nowhere near as much of a gap between the midfield and the defence, which doesn't half make a difference. You've also Caicedo has gone up another level this season. He's playing absolutely phenomenally. And obviously, yeah, we've got our attacking players who are a real threat. Cole Palmer, he's carried on from where he left off last season. Obviously, hasn't quite hit the numbers he was perhaps hitting last season, but he's still a threat and still arguably our most important player. Got Pedro Neto's into the mix now, who's really started to come into his own the last few games. Nicholas Jackson has come on leaps and bounds since the start of the season. Sorry, he's looking like a really polished striker. There's still development there. And look, mate, I think we're playing well. He likes to build up in that sort of 3-2-5. So it'll be a back four, but when we attack, someone inverts into midfield, and then you've got the back three, and then you build in with the two midfielders, whether it's Caicedo and Lavia, whether it's Fernandez and Caicedo, whoever it might be, two from those three. And then you kind of attack with a five because the fullbacks get out the pitch as well, whether it's a left back or right back inverting. Recently, you found left backs inverting into that number 10 position. I'm not really sure how much of a fan of that I am, but there's constantly little tweaks here and there that he's doing each week that you kind of notice and are kind of having an influence on the game. So he's someone that is very aware of the game from a tactical point of view, and someone that doesn't leave any details untouched. He really is a details guy.
Who's his favourite player then? Because every manager seems to have their favourites. So who would you say is really took under his wing? Because when you signed Dewsbury Hall, I thought he was probably going to be one of them guys where he's in the team, he knows him, but he's not really featuring much in the Premier League, is he? So that was a bit of a weird one. But who's sort of his main man?
I don't know. It's difficult because there's a lot of players that have started every game. Nicholas Jackson started every Premier League game. Moises Caicedo started all the games. Obviously, Sanchez, unfortunately, has started all the games. And Madueke started every game except the first game of the season against Man City. But, the way that he speaks about Wesley Fofana, he said it himself a few times. He loves him as a player. But it's very difficult, to say, he's got an absolute favourite. I think he's a massive fan of Noni Madueke because, yes, his performances have dropped in recent weeks, and people have maybe said, maybe he should perhaps be rotated out of the side. But he's played every game. Nicholas Jackson, I think he's a big fan of. I think it's really hard to pin down one. I get exactly what you mean, though. Often it's quite easy to identify a manager's kind of favourite. But I think generally with Maresca, it's quite difficult. But I think it would have to be one of the players that has started pretty much every game.
I mean, it probably is hard at Chelsea because you got two teams, haven't you? I mean, I'll look at your Conference League team and your Premier League team, and the guys that are sat at home watching. He's absolutely mental. But a player that I really rate is Madueke. I think he was brilliant, and I think he really took his chance well for England as well when Saka wasn't involved. So he's a player that sort of stands out for me. Palmer, then, I guess there was there a bit of doubt last season that maybe this one he wasn't going to be able to sort of get to the same level because obviously it was his first full season? Or were you pretty confident that he'd just go back and start firing again this season?
There's always a worry, you've seen it. You see it quite often. Players put together an unbelievable season, but only the very best can kind of back it up. So there's always that sort of thought in the back of your mind, thinking, okay, this guy's clearly a very talented player, an exceptional season last season, but can he replicate that? There's going to be greater attention paid to him by the opposition. There might be man marking and they might double up on him. You're going to have to find different ways to affect the game. And I remember saying in the summer that he was always, in my opinion, his numbers were always going to be lower this season playing with Maresca, and not because Maresca's like shackled him or anything, but because we're going to be playing with a lot more control in games. Yes, he's got a bit more. Yes, he kind of does have a free role as such, but I think the way we were playing under Pochettino last season, everything was going through him, and he kind of didn't really have to do any defending. It was very much just getting the ball and hope that something happens, and he was able to produce 9 times out of 10. This season, I feel like under Maresca, we're playing with more control. He's required to do a bit more for the team as such. But look, mate, he still started well. Yes, you know, he hasn't had a goal contribution for 3 games, which is suddenly like, oh my God, it's an absolute disaster. He's lost form or whatever. But I think he's a victim of his own success. But he's still got 7 goals and 5 assists. You know, he's still got 12 goal contributions. I think 7 and 5 is 12. Yeah, it is. He's got 12 goal contributions from 12 games. You know, that's still pretty good going. And like last season, everyone was saying, no, we want to get away from this reliance of being like Cole Palmer FC. And then people are kind of losing their minds that he's not had a goal contribution for 3 games. It's like, well, what do you want? You can't have both. People are saying we don't want to be a Cole Palmer FC and reliant on this guy. We're picking up results and points, and he's not got a goal contribution in 3 games, and it's a problem. I see that as a good thing, that actually we're able to pick up points and still play reasonably well. And Palmer, compared to the standards that he's set, hasn't really contributed that much in recent games. I think that's a positive for us.
Yeah, but he's never scored against Villa either, so hopefully them goal contributions continue then. I know you were linked with a lot of strikers. You were linked with Duran, Osimhen as well. So where are you sort of at now? Because I know you were sort of doing a lot of content in the summer about the striker situation. Do you feel like Jackson has completely solved that now for Chelsea?
We're still going to go for a striker. Definitely, it won't be in January. I think it will be next summer. But in terms of it being a big name, I would be stunned if it was a big name. You know, everyone loves a big name, and Osimhen or Gyökeres, you know, or whoever it might be. But I really think that Chelsea massively believe in Nicholas Jackson, and Jackson himself is showing that he's actually developing into quite a good striker. He got 14 Premier League goals in his first season last season, which is a very good return. That's a pretty good return for a striker in just anyway. But in your first season in the league, you're still relatively inexperienced. That was pretty good. He's already halfway to that total, but he looks such a better player than the one that he was last season. His all-round play has always been good, but that's improved again. And the big difference is his finishing has improved a lot. In a short space of time. You know, the goal against Leicester was fantastic. He scored some really good goals this season. The 2 against West Ham. Last season, he probably wouldn't have scored either of them because the finishing was a little bit off. I truly believe that with the amount of chances we create, he is a 20 goals a season striker. And if he is that guy, and Chelsea back him to be that guy, then we are not going to be looking for a first choice striker. We're going to be looking for someone as an alternative option to him. So you're going to be looking at like Liam Delap is one that we're looking at. You know, we're going to be looking for someone that is not going to come in and take Jackson's place, but it's going to come in and can provide a different option and a different profile and can come on and change a game with 15, 20 minutes to go and start games here and there. So for me, I'd be stunned if we signed a big name striker. And I think we'll honestly end up with a Liam Delap or someone of that ilk.
Yeah, he definitely looks a lot sharper. So you're in the Conference League, something that we were in last year. Something that I've noticed with this new format is obviously the new format of the Champions League. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good. I think the league table looks pretty cool. You've obviously got the lower ones like Sturm Graz and those type of teams. When I look at your league table, that Conference League table, mate, I mean,
it's a madness.
There's you guys, there's Legia Warsaw who I recognise, and the further down I go, I've heard of hardly any of them. How are you finding it?
It's different. Let's put it that way. Yeah, I mean, look, mate, when you look at the teams that are in it, with the greatest of respects to them, it's a competition that really we shouldn't be in. And for me, I look at the teams, and the only ones that I look at and think they could give us half a game: Fiorentina and Real Betis. Other than that, mate, they're all teams that are, you know, kind of average for their league. You've got to remember, to get in a Conference League, these are teams that probably finishing downwards of 5th place in their domestic leagues. So, for example, Heidenheim, who we played on Thursday night, they finished 8th in the Bundesliga last year. So, and that's probably the best team that we've played. You're playing teams like Genk, who probably would have finished 4th or 5th in the Belgium division. So, like, the level of opposition is not very good. Obviously, you've got to treat every game with respect. And I think, do you know what? It's kind of interesting. Like, for me, this is almost the perfect competition for us this season, you know, because it enables us to we've got a big squad. We've got a lot of players that need minutes and want game time. This Conference League is the perfect solution for that. You know, we're able to keep everyone happy. So for me, I don't mind being in it this season. Let's just win. Let's win the trophy. Let's have all 3 European Cups. The only team that would have done that, and kind of move on to bigger and better things next season. But yeah, man, I'm fine to be in it. But yeah, look, I'd be lying if I said that the games are kind of interesting and it's a high quality of football, because the reality is it's not. But I think it's great for a lot of our younger players as a learning process.
Do you think it's going to be good for PSR? Because I feel like with squad players, it's sometimes difficult for them, or younger players, to sort of be in the limelight or play games if they're only playing in like Carabao, FA Cups. Do you feel like you're sort of being given a bit of a platform for some of these if you wanted to sell them and move them on for more money?
Look, I don't think it's doing any harm. You know, when you've got players that you might be looking to sell, you need to get them minutes and put them in the shop window. Now, that's very difficult in the odd Carabao Cup tie, the odd FA Cup tie. But when you've got, you know, these 6 games in the Conference League, that's 6 games to maybe put players in the window, remind them what of their qualities, and maybe attract some potential suitors. And really, I expect Chelsea to probably play a rotated team up until, you know, around the quarterfinal, semi-final stage. So there's probably a few more games. I don't know whether it's going to help, but it certainly won't do any harm. And I think it's good for us to be able to put those assets in the window potentially, and you know, for these guys to show what they can do, because it's very hard to move players on if they're literally playing next to no minutes.
So finally then, Villa, what have you made of us this season, and what do you expect from the game on Sunday?
Mate, I expect a difficult game. You know, I know you guys are going through a little bit of a tricky run. I was on a little look before. I don't think you've won a game in the league since sort of the middle of October. But having said that, you're still only 3 points behind us, and we're third. So like, you've sort of not really won a game in the league for a month, but you're still 3 points off third. So it just goes to show how tight the league is. And despite not going for a particularly good run, you're still well in contention. I think you would have definitely taken that as a Villa fan. If you were 3 points off the top 4 come December, you'd have been delighted with that. And it's perhaps not been as good so far this season in terms of results. You've got dangerous players. I don't know if Annan is going to be fit or not to play in this game, but I'm a big fan of his. I think he's a fabulous footballer. Morgan Rogers, again, has come on leaps and bounds this season. Ollie Watkins, dangerous. Duran, who we know about. I would say that I'm a little bit surprised that in recent games, I've noticed defensively you've been a little bit all over the place. You seem to be leaving a lot of spaces that are getting exploited. And I don't normally associate Villa with conceding loads and loads of goals, but you know, 2 against Palace, 4 at Tottenham. You know, you are giving up opportunities to score goals, but if you give us, you know, the space like you did against Crystal Palace, for example, we've definitely got the players that can exploit that. So look, this is going to be a really difficult game. You've got a pretty good record against us in recent times, certainly in the league. I know we obviously won the FA Cup last season, but we had a draw at Villa Park in the league. You beat us at the Bridge. You've got a pretty good record against us in recent years. This is going to be tough, mate. I really like Aston Villa. I think Unai Emery's doing an absolutely fantastic job there. And I think it's going to be a really interesting game, mate. Look, I'm impressed. It's always difficult when you've hit that top 4. We've seen it with Newcastle. There might be a drop off the next season. I think you've invested really well. The squad's good, and you know, you're right bang in there or thereabouts. This is going to be a tough game. And look, I'm impressed by Villa.
Yeah, I think it will be a tough game. I keep feeling like with our defence, if we treat everything like a Champions League game, we'd be absolutely fine. We've kept like 4 clean sheets in the Champions League, and then in the Premier League, we're having a bit of a mess. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. We've beat you at Stamford Bridge last two seasons in the Premier League. So, don't know, mate. It's going to be a tough one. So, hopefully Villa can do something. But it's been great having you back on the channel, mate. I'll tag everything in the description, in the title, so Villa fans can go and check it out. And we are doing a double collab. So you can check me out on Charlie's channel as well. So cheers, mate.
No, mate. Thanks for having me as always.